G'day everyone, Jimbo here. I'm still editing up the Gary movie down there. It's coming along alright. I've whittled it down to sort of, you know, a movie length type thing, and I'm just adding in all the, it's a big job. I think it's something. Every time I show someone, I'm getting good response, but I'm also picking up places where I can just tighten it. Anyway, it's going to take another month or two. I'm not too sure what to do at the end. Obviously I can just upload it to YouTube and Facebook, but there's no money in it. I've been completely demonetized by YouTube. Now, I got demonetized pretty well a year ago. No reason, no reason given. It's like, you know, there's no hate speech or anything, or really graphic stuff on my channel. I swear a bit and, you know, I'm a bit loose, but nothing to, you know, explain why I've been demonetized. But I did, before the election of Trump, just come out and say, I said I support Trump over Hillary, and you know, pretty well soon after that I got demonetized. Now it's sort of, you know, it's sort of seen by a lot of people, especially liberals, as just paranoia, but a lot of people on YouTube who are coming out with this alternate right red pilling type ideas, which is really resonating in the voter base, particularly in America, got demonetized by YouTube, or banned or sanctioned or whatever. The most extreme one was Milo Yiannopoulos, who got just taken down from Twitter altogether. Now I'm not even on Twitter, because I just feel that just keeping up with Facebook and YouTube takes up as much of my time as I can, so I just haven't got around to it. So Twitter's not my thing, but I feel that Facebook and YouTube have got a similar type censorship of anything alternate right. Now, I think Milo was a great example of what the alternate right is. He's come out to Australia recently on a tour, and the press has done the usual thing. Oh, if you're an alternate right, you're obviously, you know, homophobic. And he's going, no mate, I fucking suck cock. And then it's like, oh, well, you're racist. It's like, no, I'm married to a black guy, and it's not a phony marriage either. Oh, you're anti-Semitic. It's, no, I've got a Jewish mother. And then he got onto the arguments, and a lot of the TV hosts, as I said, it just couldn't, they had no argument beyond you're racist, sexist, homophobic. And then they go, oh, well, you're just doing it for attention. And then they cut to a commercial break. Well, that's their job, to get attention, so all these big, massive corporate sponsors can give them huge amounts of money for things like morning TV shows, which get about 300,000 views, whereas people like Milo and people doing videos, you get way more than that, and they're not getting any money. So how do you fund these you know, these messages? There's so many people coming out doing it, and when I did it, what interests me was not necessarily like, oh, I vote for Trump. It was like, mate, I just wanted to see the response, because, and what blew me away, that like about, you know, fucking 70-80% of people are liking my page, that post, and against disliking it. Now it's not like a popularity thing. It was just like, how come this is so contrary to what the mainstream media is saying? Which is mirrored in there, where the New York Times and everyone before the election, a few days before, were going 90% chance that Hillary was going to win. So rather than saying vote for this, it was just like, I was just calling out the media and just going, the mainstream media has got it wrong. I said on my page, I put the link down below before the election, I said, if Trump wins, it's going to be the death of mainstream media. And as we've seen since then, the media's dumbed down and then just doubled down as well, and just gone about this fake news. And they're the one peddling the conspiracies, like the Russian thing. It's like, you know, it's a conspiracy and it's a theory because it hasn't been proven. So there's big things happening, but essentially what Milo Yiannopoulos, I'll put up his video after this, I'm sure he won't mind, because he did it this morning. He nails it, and he says it way more succinctly than I can. That the media, the internet, social media, which has got people like Trump in, because people can voice and have a discussion about stuff, is being censored. So rather than mainstream media dying and then just freedom of speech flourishing on social media since Trump's got in has been more and more heavily censored. Now the first thing is demonetizing people who have an alternate right opinion, and while at the same time trying to say that these alternate rights are the equivalent of hard right, which is completely wrong. And I've seen it on my page. I get people sort of writing, you know, at the beginning, oh, you're racist because, you know, just because I'm associated with Trump, favoritism. And then occasionally the odd person on the hard right going, no, mate, you, because you've got an Asian partner and half Asian kids, you're part of a eugenics program to get rid of white people. It's like, no, mate. But, you know, I don't think, and what's interesting, these people write this never get more than a couple of likes for it. It's like, mate, this is on an alternate right page, really. My views are like that. So, sorry, just had to fucking answer the door. I'm staying at someone's house sitting. Fucking cheap rent. Thanks, Laura. Yeah, so, where was it? The alternate media is getting its voice through on social media, and social media is just fucking censoring it big time. And it's come out that this is not conspiracy. It's come out, you know, the last couple of days that Twitter is basically admitting that they censor anything that doesn't fucking promote the liberal agenda, while at the same time trying to promote anything that's alternate right as hard right. So that's what I was saying. Yeah, this hard right opinion, I don't believe hard right values, and I don't care whether it's hardcore white supremacists who just don't believe in other races existing, or whether it's from the extreme end of the Black Lives Matter movement, or fucking whatever race. There's such a minority right across the spectrum that it's laughable. It's completely laughable. And I don't think these views should be fucking censored, not because I believe in them. I just think that these extreme views, when you label them hate, you go, oh, we'll take down hate stuff, but anything from the alternate right or anything that's not completely liberal is being like branded as hate speech when it's not. So that's why I think there should be just complete freedom of speech on the internet. They shouldn't be worried about these really extreme views. I don't think humanity is going to grab it ever. So, especially in this day and age. So, yeah, that's what's happening. What are your views on this? As my thing, Milo is talking about the censorship, but in my thing, he's basically made an interesting point. The censorship is more coming from big corporate companies, especially Silicon Valley and the social media, more than governments. And it's time for governments to get in and maybe just regulate this censorship on social media, give it a free platform. Which is ironic coming from the right, who wants small government. But it's small government, it's not no government, as in anarchy. It's just a small government, and, you know, protect freedom of speech and let companies companies flourish, but not to the point where they can influence public opinion through media, especially when there's an income through this. Like Milo, myself, you know, with these views, we can only get an income from a really... We can't just do a YouTube or Facebook and get 300,000 views and get enough money, which is the equivalent of all these TV companies. Just, you look at the credits at the end of their show, it's like, how much fucking money do you get just for 300,000 views? It's like fucking heaps from these corporate companies. So that's it, income-wise. Just 2018 is a really interesting time for me, and fucking a lot of people, the whole world. Where is the direction of this censorship gonna go? And it's, you know, I've been censored. Fucking big time, man. Been taken to court, fucking demonetized on YouTube. The cops have rung up my gigs and ring-barked them. Not dissimilar to Milo Yiannopoulos, where they're trying to fucking charge him for the security to fucking handle the protesters. It's a real struggle getting an income source from this, but we are surviving, and I'm going to try and get an income source maybe from this movie, and from that fund a Gary statue and this taxidermy, which is 60 grand. So I'm really trying to do it through the free market. I don't think they're asking for donations just for content. I appreciate all the people who have done it, but it doesn't work on a level where you can really keep going if you just rely on that. So yeah, interesting times ahead, but just check out this Milo Yiannopoulos video, which I'm just going to put at the end for those interested. The information war, so to speak, is on, and the political weight of where people are going, the alternate right, which to me is the only one that's not racist. The left is all going on identity politics, and the hard right is on identity politics as well. The alternate right is just for freedom of speech and meritocracy and fucking fun and doing shit. It doesn't care what your fucking race, sexuality or whatever it is. Who gives a fuck? So yeah, let us know what you think of this, and I'm going to keep going on the movie. Cheers, guys.
Twitter. Now, Twitter, we have said, those in the conservative corners of the universe, for years, but Twitter was enforcing arbitrary, unfair political rules on conservatives and libertarians, and in particular on Trump supporters. And we wanted to know all kinds of things, really. Twitter is notoriously tight-lipped about its policies. Thanks to James O'Keefe at Project Veritas, we now have incontrovertible evidence of many of the things that we have long suspected. In fact, some of you may remember that I broke the story in Breitbart in February 2016 that Twitter was doing something called shadow banning, which basically means they limit the extent to which your posts can be seen by other people, but they don't tell you you've done it, and they don't tell anyone else that they've done it either. So it limits the reach, your effectiveness, your ability to get your message out to your audience, but nobody knows. And the only people who could plausibly, conceivably reveal any information like that are within Twitter and aren't talking. Well, some of them are talking now. And the Project Veritas team got a they got Twitter employees to say in response to the in response to the statement, I've tried to block people like Cernovich, meaning Mike Cernovich, and mute stuff like that. They still show up all the time. This is a Project Veritas journalist pretending to be upset that they were receiving tweets from Mike Cernovich despite the fact that they had no interest in him. To which the Twitter employee, Olinda Hassan, replied, yeah, that's something we're working on. It's something we're working on. We're trying to get the shitty people to not show up. It's a product thing we're working on. Well, I broke the story, as I say, in 2016, and what I wrote at the time was rumors that Twitter has begun shadow banning politically inconvenient users are running rampant and have been confirmed by one current Twitter employee and one media company executive. So we knew this in February 2016. Of course, after reporting that a few months later, I was myself completely banned. And our story was backed up by a senior editor at a major digital publisher. Now, Twitter's mysterious habits aren't just frustrating technical mysteries, this little black box of Twitter where they build all these algorithms to try to punish conservatives. They also have unwritten policy rules. And it's in the unwritten policy rules that the real damage is done, because Twitter won't explain what its abuse and harassment policies are really for. Because if it was honest about it, it would explain that they're actually just designed to punish conservatives and libertarians and to privilege the opinions of liberals in many cases. Yes, that's the guy in charge in question. In many cases, liberals who are far more divisive, hateful, and obnoxious than the people that they're complaining about on Twitter. And the double standards by now are well understood and well established. No reasonable person looking at the body of evidence can claim that Twitter treats conservatives and liberals equally. But we now have incontrovertible testimony from the people inside the building themselves that is precisely what has been happening. So, a lot of unwritten rules, says one Twitter employee in the Project Veritas videos. Being that we're in San Francisco, we're in California. Very liberal, a very blue state. You had to be. I mean, as a company, you can't really say it because it would make you look bad, but behind closed doors are lots of rules, like, hey, you got to do it this way, or something like that. It was never written. It was more than said. I've said for some time now that these technology companies don't have to codify their biases in terms of service. Their biases are well understood. It's worse than coordination. It's an echo chamber. Coordination and collusion of the sort that we saw in Gamergate is only really necessary when not quite everybody is on board, and the groupthink has to be enforced by fiat, by threat, by intimidation, and by popular opinion. But this is worse than that. They just take it as granted. They take it as given that anyone in San Francisco, anyone applying for a job in Twitter would automatically consider Trump supporters, conservatives, and libertarians to be weirdos, racists, and hateful abusers. Now, I have some exclusive footage provided to me this morning by James O'Keefe at Project Veritas, which has not been seen anywhere before, and it involves one of your favorite, possibly your favorite, conservative personality. We're going to run that footage. It's a couple of minutes long, and then we'll talk about what it shows afterwards. So here it is.
You know that? goes after like all the liberals, like
The gay guy?
Milo. No, that's
Milo.
He's already banned.
So I would just be like really weary that it could, you know, infringe on like First Amendment somehow.
I think. So the thing is, we never ban the comments unless somebody starts like really going after somebody in an abusive way, right? Like, what was that guy's name? The guy who was like banned at Berkeley. Sorry. Something Galapagos.
Aren't there a lot of people? Like pretty much anyone who goes there.
Yeah, pretty much. Some guy named Galapagos went after this actress. That's when I first started, I think. Her name was Leslie Jones.
Okay.
And he started calling her like a monkey and all that weird stuff. At that point, it's like, yeah, it's free speech, but it's also very abusive.
Right.
Because he had like huge followers, and he like sent them all after her. He says, "Oh, go after her," and all that stuff. So we banned him because like you can't have free speech, but it doesn't mean you should like be going after one person and abusing them.
But he gave a speech here in UC Berkeley. He was going to give a speech on UC Berkeley.
Milo, Yiannopoulos.
Yeah. The funny thing about him, or not
Hate speech. It's friggin' hate speech.
Hate speech, but he's gay. From my understanding, he's gay. So everything, like you look at it, he's like everything. UC Berkeley is about. UC Berkeley is probably the most liberal campus in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And they will not let him speak. I was like, but this is the most liberal place. Like, where is this? Like.
Well, but Twitter banned him, correct?
Correct, he got banned. I remember, but at that time, he was trending very, very hard on Twitter. Like, I remember I looked on Twitter and I saw that there was a hashtag about him saying, like, a lot of crazy stuff, but he was trending for, I want to say, that whole week, just about.
I think there were some cases like those extreme right-wing people recently. I forgot his name. There's also that guy who got banned at the beginning of the year, I think.
Well, that's it. Even Twitter's employees don't know what's happening. Even Twitter's own employees have no grasp whatsoever of the facts. I never called Leslie Jones a monkey. I never did anything even remotely like it. And everybody running Twitter knows it. It's a disgusting lie that was invented by the press. As you see, they don't have the slightest grasp of the facts. They don't care about the facts because the specific claims that they make are wrong, and the more generalized and more telling claims, well, they speak for themselves. I mean, the general reasons run totally and completely contrary to the fundamental principles of free speech. Richard Spencer, of course, who is an actual white nationalist and wants a white ethno-state in the USA, is still on the platform, and you can draw your own conclusions about that. And this, most importantly, the only reason I'm giving it this much airtime, is happening to you. It's happening to the people you like, the people you read, the people you watch. It's happening to everyone. And, you know, this is not just political operatives and journalists who become too successful and too popular and too effective, so they have to be nuked from the platform. It's happening to ordinary citizens as well. It also happened to Roger Stone. Now, Roger Stone, my friend Roger, who's on the show on Monday, has announced that he's going to be suing Twitter. It's going to be an antitrust case. It's quite clear at this point that Twitter and technology companies in general, and this is why Tucker Carlson is telling you that the big threat to free expression, to liberty, and to civil rights isn't coming from the government at the moment, it's coming from big business and from Silicon Valley. He's absolutely right about that. The antitrust dimension of this is interesting. It's difficult for conservatives to get our head around because we're supposed to be pro-free market. We're supposed to, defend companies against the intervention of government. But by the same token, we are happy to wade in where monopolistic practices are threatening the country, threatening democracy, threatening liberty, and threatening the population. That's exactly the situation that we are now in with technology companies. The big debate of the next 10 years is going to be whether large technology companies, and in particular, specifically social networks, should be regulated like public utilities. They don't want that, but the case for it is becoming unarguable. Now, you can say what you want about individual cases and individual bans, but the one thing about Twitter and about all these social networks that is unarguably clear is that the censorship cuts one way, and one way only. It is always in favor of liberals and to punish conservatives. There can be no possible argument about it, thanks to these amazing videos from James O'Keefe, incontrovertible, and he's done a terrific service. And this changes things for me. Originally, I was happy to be banned because I enjoyed the free press that came from it, but I've realized that it has caused me in the long term to have a struggle, I suppose, getting messages out as quickly sometimes. And here's the thing. Twitter operates a complete monopoly on the journalistic sphere. Journalists find their stories, decide what to cover and how to cover it, whether to cover things at all, according to the conversations they see on Twitter, according to what's said on Twitter. People can attack you, have no right of reply, and stories go to press without any opportunity for the subject of those stories to respond or to correct false allegations. So fake news spreads like wildfire about people who cannot reply to charges made against them, particularly people who are lied about all the time. Now, with that in mind, Roger Stone has given a statement today for me to read out, and it is as follows, quote, "We continue to explore a broad lawsuit challenging Twitter censorship and the hypocrisy of their rules for online conduct, which seems to be disproportionately levied against conservative voices in an obvious attempt to silence us. Verified tweeters call for my murder online every day, but Twitter doesn't ban them." Continuing the quote, "We believe it is time to expose their manipulation of algorithms, shadow banning, and other online techniques used to limit our reach. It's time for Twitter to be regulated like a public utility or to perish. I am heartened that my friend Milo Yiannopoulos is prepared to join our legal action along with other conservatives who have been gagged by the Twitter censors." If Twitter could, they would ban us all immediately. They would ban the president too, but they know that would be immediate death for their network. It always cuts one way. You see the Daily Caller report that came out yesterday that was recovered by my old friend Alan Bakari at Breitbart, which said, it's a very interesting story, you have to read it, the Google fact check, which appears next to some publishers, hits conservative news sources almost exclusively. I think there's one exception. So you can go and you can read that story in the Daily Caller, you can read that at Breitbart, look at what happened to James Damore, look at what happened to Facebook in Germany. People cannot criticize immigration Facebook in Germany. I am patient zero of the Twitter ban epidemic. I'm where it all began back in 2016. The company declared war on free speech and war on me then, and at the time I appreciated the free press, but I've come to realize that Twitter's recklessness and bias toward conservatives, freethinkers, comedians, satirists, and others represents a threat to free speech and democracy. Such is Twitter's monopolistic grip on journalistic discourse. Footage released this week by investigative journalists at Project Veritas reveals a defiantly biased company whose hateful and divisive political attitudes are robbing libertarians and conservative journalists and media personalities of all kinds, and it's not just conservatives, it's liberals too, of the right to freely express their opinions in the press. Center-left people who crack the wrong joke about the wrong person do occasionally fall afoul of social networking policies as well. Less commonly on Twitter, where only really if you're a conservative you get stung, but it does happen. The biggest tech debate of the next decade is whether technology companies, in particular social networks, should be regulated as public utilities. It's becoming increasingly clear, given their rampant abuses, that they should. And Twitter is the worst offender of them all. So, with that in mind, I'm going to be joining Roger Stone's lawsuit against Twitter. You heard it here first. We're still assembling all of the information for that. We won't probably even, when he joins the show on Monday, be able to tell you very much more about it. I understand someone else has filed a suit this week, or last week perhaps. The ginger activist guy, Charles Johnson, has filed. Our case is completely separate from his, but Twitter is getting it in the neck from all kinds of conservatives. I'm happy to join them.